1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Friday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Hello everyone and welcome to this Friday the 13th edition of the Royal Blue Podcast. We are live on YouTube from the Royal Blue studio based in Liverpool City Centre. I am your host Ian Croll. Alongside me we have Chris Beesley and Gavin Buckland. Thank you to everyone who has joined us for the live stream, and thank you to everyone listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Chris, how are things? All good? We were literally just saying that. That's probably your first appearance on the show for at least 10 days, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've been very busy. I don't know whether... Did Joe mention the shout-out that we had from coming back from Fulham?
He did.
He did. I was going to say Kevin and Peter. Yeah.
Mention it again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Kevin Sheedy and Peter Reid, but no, it was. It was a couple of Evertonians, and it was very lively, as you can imagine, on that train back from... Obviously not from Craven Cottage itself, from Euston. It was actually the same train as the Everton team were on. I don't know if Joe mentioned that. So yeah, they were all banging on the windows beforehand at the players, and then
we explained why that you couldn't do the post-match show because it was too loud.
It would have been rather lively. But yeah, so it's been quite the week. So we had the ups of that, and then the downs of obviously Bournemouth on Tuesday night, where obviously exactly what Everton did to Fulham, Bournemouth did to them, came from behind 1-2-1, and then last night was back at Hill Dickinson Stadium again, twice in 48 hours for even more ups and downs. The excitement of the FA Youth Cup with Everton, seconds away from going out in the competition. Then Braden Graham, an incredible equaliser deep into stoppage time, and then they went on to win that one in extra time. So yeah, I've been a busy man.
Good stuff. Good to have you back on the show. Gav
feels slightly compared to what Chris been doing.
Yeah, Gav's not a busy man at the minute, or are you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Close to retirement age. 60 now.
Well, the 67, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I never know.
Is that your retirement age officially? No.
Everybody's 67 now these days.
He's shocked him now. He thought.
No, but I thought for generation-wise.
No, still 67, mate. But I'll be finished before.
Fair enough. Well, I've got Gav to thank for today's agenda because he messaged me yesterday and said, "Can we speak about these three things?"
Yeah, but that's thorny. Well, not thorny issues, but common issues. It was a year to the Derby anniversary yesterday, wasn't it? As well, so 96-minute equalised, wasn't it? Again,
you can speak about that again if you want.
No, absolutely.
Facing a team in all red with just seconds on the clock.
We're saying I'm spending Valentine's Day with my loved one tomorrow. I'm going to Prescott Cables with Scotty.
Wow!
How would you believe?
You two in the dugout?
Yeah.
Wow.
Guests of the legendary Stuart Piker Prescott Cables.
All right.
Tomorrow, yeah, because
very nice.
Game yet, so did it last year.
So what is your missus actually doing then? Just sitting in at the telly?
I don't know what that
doesn't care.
Really, scared to ask.
Doesn't care.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only a day. I may return for the evening, but
I may return.
Yeah, so we'll have a good day. Prescott Cables tomorrow.
Okay,
Mr. Pike.
Yeah, well, the agenda is set by Gav and seconded by me.
To blame if it goes
wrong. No,
yeah.
Seconded by me. I'm all for it. In bullet point form, it is. We're going to talk about Everton's transfer strategy. We're going to talk about the home form / atmosphere. We're going to question and discuss whether Moyes is being stubborn to a fault. And at the very beginning of this podcast, we'll also give Chris and Gav the final word on Bournemouth. We'll very briefly just go over that again. Before we do that, I just want to thank the show's sponsors, NordVPN. Thank you for your continued support of the show. For anyone looking for a VPN, then look no further than NordVPN. With Nord, you can watch sporting events, TV shows, films which aren't available in your region by switching your virtual location to a country which is showing the event. NordVPN also gives you protection for your private data like bank details, passwords, and online identity. And one NordVPN account can be used on up to 10 devices. For more information and to get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/EFC. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And the link is in the podcast episode description box. Chris, obviously me and Tony did an in-depth post-match show following the Bournemouth game on Tuesday night, but let's get your thoughts and opinions on it. We did seem to have the game under control. Don't think it was a great first half performance, but we got the penalty and we scored it. Second half, I thought we came out the traps even more. I thought that 10-15 minute period. But then, Bournemouth kind of come back into the game. Is it a case of lack of concentration, tactical discipline, or was it literally just a case if Barry takes his chances, then Everton are, clear?
Well, I think if he had, they would have been, I think what it shows, like I said, the exact same as what Everton did to Fulham. At this level, you've got to be clinical with your finishing, otherwise you will get punished. And that's what happened to Fulham at Craven Cottage on Saturday. They probably could and should have been out of sight by at half-time. John Pickford made an incredible save. And Everton stayed in that game. And then we were the ones all celebrating on Saturday evening. Then tables were turned on the Tuesday. Thierno Barry, I thought, especially the second one. First one, he gets his angles all wrong. But second one, basically, Iliman Ndiaye puts it on the plate for him. So, yeah, but it is concerning that, when you've got James Tarkowski and Jared Bramthwaite, who's been such a solid partnership in the past. They were starting for the first time together as a centre-back partnership this season. From just concede twice in a matter of minutes. Just a big mess, really. I actually thought it was a poor game, strange game all round, even when Everton were winning. I think both sides were off their game. I think Areola admitted that in the press conference afterwards. He said they were lucky to win, basically, and they weren't on their game, especially after Everton went to 10 men. He was disappointed with how they responded to that. But it felt like a huge missed opportunity for me. It was a big chance for Everton to sort of stake a claim for a European place and perhaps a bit of a reality check in the end. Yeah, it was very disappointing. And thank goodness Everton won the one game they really had to win against Bournemouth, because, we've actually got a bit of a family connection. My wife's niece, she's married to a lad from Bournemouth. He's a lovely lad, and he's moved up to Merseyside all that way, and I see him quite a lot. But, yeah, I'd really like to see the back of Bournemouth, really. I mean, we obviously got the monkey off the back with that first win at the Vitality Stadium earlier this season. But, they seem to a number on Everton, and they've done it again.
Gav, did you see the fight back from Bournemouth coming? Because I think a lot of people around me could see it. Yeah. And just referring to the press conference, I think Moyes was specifically asked about it from Joe Thomas following the game. And Moyes didn't really have an answer to give, which I thought was a bit concerning.
10 minutes into the second half, thought we played well for the first 10 minutes, but then they made a couple of subs. I think one sub, didn't he? It hadn't been coming, but the game, the balance of power on the game had shifted. I thought we showed a lack of belief on Tuesday, and whether that transmitted, whether the thing about, if we win tonight, we go sixth or whatever, whether that transmitted itself to the players and they reacted accordingly is a moot point. But I just hope we lack of belief at 1-0 in terms of killing the game off. Because as I say, Bournemouth hadn't really done much up until 55 minutes. We'd had a couple of chances, and once they scored, I think it was inevitable then, wasn't it? That we just didn't show enough quality and belief in that 15-minute, 20-minute spell, I think, and that was damaging. I think regarding Barry, he actually did well for the second one, because he'd linked up a couple of times with Ndiaye, hadn't he? He'd exchanged passes with him. Mm-hmm. The one thing that infuriated me about Barry on Tuesday, which was nothing to do with his misses, is the cross from Dewsbury Hall in the first half. The one that went to Ndiaye when Ndiaye pulled it back.
The first 5 minutes.
Yeah, in the first half, yeah. That goes right across the 6-yard box, and Barry is just he's got a yard on a defender. If he just like attacking space, if he attacks space there, he's got the easiest tap in you'll ever see. But he just doesn't move. The ball literally goes right across in front of him, and that a centre forward of experience and quality. It's the Gavin thing, isn't it? 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work. But if you attack space there, like he did for the one that came off the free kick. If he did anticipate, had the same anticipation, would have had a tap in for that. And that infuriated me off Barry on Tuesday. I thought is the second miss, yeah, possibly. First miss, probably maybe a little bit harsh. Criticising him because it was a difficult position, possibly because the ball was spinning, wasn't it, away from him. But he'd anticipated the space there, anticipated what was going to happen there. Why didn't he do that for the Dewsbury Hall cross? And I think, I think we played well with 10 men, but I think they'd sat back by that point. But it was just disappointing to go around, but in keeping with our home form, as we'll talk about.
I'm in complete disagreement with both here about the Barry chances. I think the first ones, he should be scoring the first one.
He should be getting it on target, okay.
I think basically the second one, to start with that one, is that he's in the right position. He's got himself in that area, but the Bournemouth defender just does really well. Absolutely. The second one, it's a shot from Garner, isn't it? And obviously the keeper is kind of all over the place with it. He's just not set up at all. His balance, his technique, and he's literally just, his legs are flaying all over the place.
I get that.
Do you know what I mean? So I think in that respect, it's on him then to do that, whereas the Bournemouth defender for the second chance, he's just really good defending. Don't get me wrong, I think if that's an Erling Haaland or someone else of much better quality, it's probably a goal. But when you're up against a defender who's just trying to get the ball away, I think that's my point. I mean,
sorry, but for the first one, he's done 80%. He's done 80% of the hard work by getting in that position. But he's then let down, as you say, about his technique.
Sorry, I was going to say Moyes could see it coming, couldn't he? Because he was going to make those substitutions beforehand anyway, wasn't he? And then, I think he realised that Bournemouth were on the cusp of doing something, and unfortunately just couldn't get the players on in time.
In terms of belief, is that purely down to Barry missing them chances and then filtering down the team? Because let's face it, we've got belief away from home. Whether we're playing a certain style of play and it's beneficial to play away. No, I agree, but we're still winning them games, or at least getting results.
I just felt that we just didn't have it in us to kill off the game, and that is something I've spoken many times about Moyes. He's a percentage manager, isn't he? He's a 1-0, 2-1 manager, isn't he? There's times when he's had good teams in the past where he's gone on and won 2 or 3-0, but I just felt on Tuesday for the first 10, 15 minutes, there was once they got back into the game, we just didn't have the belief to sort of regain the initiative. And whether that was the pressure of playing at home, as we'll talk about, or the pressure of what the rewards are if we win, possibly, but it's no coincidence, is it? We've probably had 3 or 4 opportunities to make a big move up the table this season in home games, and not taking any of them, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
But no one has in that middle
I
patch,
get that. I'm not talking about anybody else.
No, that's fine.
About Everton, and I just thought we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit on Tuesday, but and let's face it, it was poor defending. I mean, don't know what Pickford's doing for the second goal. I don't know what Mikalenko's doing for the first goal as well. And then Ndiaye, we defended those two positions awfully. And I think we got punished for the sending off. I think, when we say about passing us to play, I think because we've got better balance, I think somebody who plays right back regularly, I don't think he gets calls out the way O'Brien gets calls out on Tuesday. It's about sensing danger, isn't it? And if you're in the right back, if you played that position all your career, you know how to sense danger in the right back position in those areas. And I think O'Brien got found out a little bit on Tuesday for not being a right back. I think a regular right back knows exactly what's going to happen here and reacts accordingly. But O'Brien doesn't, and he's too late, and he gets calls out. And I think the third sort of incident that gets Bournemouth the victory, I think that was as much about team selection as what it was about O'Brien making a mistake.
Just trying to make a note of some of the comments as we go on, so I'll just read out some now and then continue throughout the show. So Kieran Callie says, Barry scores them 2 sitters and we aren't having this conversation. Strength and Honour says, Barry is a one-touch footballer. He'll know he was positioned wrong. The second was unlucky. I think, I'll come on to you now, Chris, but that when you said Barry's done the hard part, he's linked up play well and then he's got into the box. That is my issue. Obviously, that's great, but my issue is with the style of play and not mixing it up as much. The play always seems to be build out from the back, slow and laboured, give it to the wingers, try and get it to Barry, who's a one-touch footballer who lay it off to the wingers, and then his job is to try and get into the box for the wingers to cross it in. For me, that is so difficult to do every single time. You need to be pinpoint, you need to be so accurate. And in the one chance that, or the one chance that he got in that second half, the Bournemouth defenders were just all over him.
For the second miss?
Yeah, when the Bournemouth challenged him.
I mean, I think the second one, he has to move towards the ball. This is coming to him. He doesn't just stand in that position, does he? He's moved towards the ball. And don't give the opponents a chance to reach it. But the thing is, as much as the strikers get stick, and we've said this on the pod before, haven't we? In terms of high quality, these stats are high quality chances, and XG, we're one of the lowest in the Premier League, aren't we? 18th out of 20. We don't create that many chances, really good chances for our players, do we? And that's due. I don't think we create enough through the middle. As you're saying, it's predictable. It's even predictable since Grealish has been out the team, hasn't it? It's just get the ball out wide and then see where it takes us. We're not creating enough through the middle. And, the stuff out wide, even from Grealish, there's not a lot of quality in terms of... how many times this season at home, there was like on Tuesday, if you come away from the ground thinking, I'll tell you what, we missed this, she had loads of chances there, or we should, not many, because we've not really created that many high quality chances. At the same time, the forwards have got to give the wide men opportunities to... But if
you're surrounded by 4, 5, 6 defenders...
Well, we've got to get... Yeah, we said this before in the last week's pod, didn't we? We're not getting midfielders into the box as often as what we should do. We cited the Leeds equaliser, didn't we? Where Barry was the only player in the Everton player in the penalty area when the ball comes across. So I think we need, and this goes back to our home form, doesn't it? We need to get more people inside the box to act as a diversion, because as you say, we can get crowded out, and but we need a little bit. We need to be playing better quality stuff through the middle of the pitch, I think.
Well, we can come on to that as well. But I mean, Chris, in terms of home form, and we'll bring in, I guess, atmosphere as well. Yeah. How concerning now is the home form for you? Because is it 6 that we haven't won in now? We haven't.
Six
Forest
games,
was the last game he won. Obviously, taking into account, a lot of people maybe suggesting the new stadium, the new environment as well. I mean, I know you've given your thoughts on that, but the home form in isolation, it's not good at this moment in time.
No, and it's in sharp contrast, of course, to the away form. Said Joe and I have discussed this before. We're fortunate, along with those people who are, those passionate Evertonians who are able to follow them in the away games up and down the country. But like the same as every football club, the vast majority of your fan base are only going to see the home games. So whereas we're able to appreciate the full picture and experience all those numerous away day successes, as 11 wins out of 22, and then you can throw into that good results like the euphoria over the last gasp draw at Brighton, the one before Fulham, and you're seeing more of the overall picture. But yeah, it is concerning. 6 games without a win, and the thing is, they've done it before this run anyway. I think what people have got to do, and I've written about this, people have got to stop rewriting the past, the recent past. This idea, I think it's just totally ridiculous, just totally false that these results wouldn't have happened at Goodison Park. Everton had their historic final season at Goodison Park and won 5 league games, which was the joint lowest in their entire history. So this idea that Goodison Park was always a cauldron of noise, was always, a difficult place for teams to come, that's just not true in recent times. There have been big moments, of course, those relegation deciders when the team have come, when the fans have come out and supported the team, and in other big games as well, trying to get the team over the line. And we know it's been the same with the new stadium, to be fair. It's been just as loud as Goodison, if not probably louder at times, in the right moments. But the problem is the team aren't creating enough of those moments. It's always been the way with Everton. You often need something to spark the crowd into action, as we saw in the Crystal Palace game when the player didn't retreat. And that was the moment, that was the almost like the Phil Neville and Ronaldo tackle moment. We could see the atmosphere change. So we've seen it. And they raced to 4 home wins by the turn of the calendar year, considering they only got 5 the year before that. So they've shown they can do it at the new stadium. But yeah, this present run is a concern, and it's for me, it's down to the way the team are playing, and it's obviously an issue for David Moyes and the players to look at, rather than anything to do with the environment. I mean, it's just a huge emotional thing for any club to move to the new stadium, and people are still getting used to all of that and the new match day routines and things like that. But if anybody is blaming Hill Dickinson Stadium, the best thing that's happened to Everton in decades for this poor run, they're way off the mark. But it's a big concern for the players and the manager. They need to address it.
Gav, obviously I'm in agreement with Chris. I think it's the football on the pitch, the product on the pitch, the entertainment value, how we're being set up. Obviously, I think fans' expectations when we go away, there's an expectation of how the team are going to set up, and that's fine, maybe a little bit more defensive and compact, and that's paying off dividends because we're getting the results at home. There might be more of an expectation to go out there, I'm not suggesting we need to go there and play like complete gung-ho attacking football and flair. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think it's clear. It's definitely clear that doing the same thing over and over again, which the manager seems to be doing, although he did change personnel, I think that's fine, but it's the approach and tactical approach and how to break teams down is the issue. But can you make an argument for the swap from Goodison to Hill Dickinson?
In terms of affecting our form?
Yeah, I mean, taking into account the atmosphere with the fans and time changes, just everything involved.
I think you can't prove that, but I think historically people say that, don't they? It does impact on you. I think Chris's point, as you say, is right in that. Like, we've not had poor home form, haven't we, since COVID, haven't we, really? I think the only difference, I'd say, this season is the away form's been good. Within the previous 4 years, the away form wasn't that good because actually pretty poor team. But this year there's a big disparity, but we're not the only club there. I think it's intangible, isn't it? It probably does affect people. I certainly think it affects the atmosphere. One of the, and I'm not the only person who's noticed this, is the people leaving early. Because of it's happened quite a few times. Even like I remember when we played West Ham early on in the season, people were leaving at 1-1 in 90 minutes. You think, well, why is that? Because I do think the preponderance of night games has meant that people will naturally go a bit early, and I think that maybe affects the atmosphere. But there's a wider point here, though, isn't it, about modern football, which I think is worth adding in. And I think and I don't think it applies. It applies to everybody. Is that what? In terms of home games now in the Premier League, what does the club, and by the clubs I mean the owners, what do they want off fans? Do they want support or their money? And it's quite obvious now what they want is their money, isn't it? That's the way it's sold.
Going down a tangent here.
Pardon?
Going down a tangent here.
No, it isn't. No.
I know what you mean.
Because what happens is then, and somebody was, I think, was it Pep mentioned this the other week, is what happens eventually is that then transmits itself through supporters in the atmosphere of the game, is why they're there, and then that transmits itself to the team on the pitch. And I said, was it Pep mentioned this, because City have got this having the empty ad and all this type of thing, is, it may not have been Pep, but somebody associated with Man City said this, is I do think that the way home games are marketed now in football, that affects the atmosphere. Because the supporters are there for a slightly different reason than just their support, and I think that overall that contributes to the change in the balance between home and away form. I think in terms of atmosphere and so on, and because our away form, we're going about the atmosphere at Hill Dickinson, but our away sport, you go obviously all the time. Our away sport's great, in terms of the sport.
Wherever they go,
but you could say that about every away support that comes to Hill Dickinson.
Apart from Bournemouth, maybe.
You only had that. That's understandable, but the away support of all teams is loud. But if those teams play at home, then it's not as good. And there's a lot of complaints, isn't there, about atmosphere in the Premier League grounds. And I'm talking about big clubs here. And I think some of that, I read an article about it yesterday, is the way home games are marketed now in the Premier League and what owners want from supporters.
It's interesting that, because I think that, like all clubs, Everton would want a huge international fan base, and I saw that. I was fortunate enough to be on the US tour last year, and the passionate fan base both in America and then the expats that were over there. Actually met some Evertonians from Arkansas before the game on Tuesday, but I think they're the exception to the norm. From what I've seen, Everton's fan base is more or less still the traditional
Absolutely.
local fan base. Whereas if you go to teams like Manchester City, as Gav's said, I've seen people there with their bags, international fans. They've gone to the club shop, they've spent hundreds of pounds, but maybe they're not making that sort of noise. They'll be there taking all their pictures during the game. So I don't know if that, as much as the freaking group might want to get those sort of fans in, like all clubs, to attract them. And I think Everton have still got more of a traditional fan base from what I've seen compared to other clubs.
I'm not talking about Everton, I'm just talking about the wider game in the Premier League. Have you noticed the amount of empty seats in Premier League matches this season at some grounds that weren't there before? Is this change in emphasis of the way home games are marketed? And because it goes back to what we talked about ticket prices last week, Ian, and it ties in with that, isn't it? Is like, what they've realised that the only way they can grow revenue in the short term is through increasing ticket prices and all that type of stuff, hospitality. And I think ultimately that affects the atmosphere of games. And I think you can see that probably in the Premier League this season, and that's highlighted by the fact that the away fans are always the most vocal, aren't they, at virtually every ground that you see. And I don't think that I want that to happen at Everton, but and with us as well, there's the moving to the new ground thing where people are not with people that they would normally be with, and people have commented on the atmosphere, haven't they? And I think eventually that will transmit itself to the players on the pitch. And I think that's the way the game's going, isn't it?
Just on your point, Chris, I think there's another take on that as well. You're talking about fans who, live across waters and, come to the Premier League maybe once, twice a year. Would those fans not be more raucous when they come because, the seeing Hill Dickinson and Everton for the first time maybe in a long time? I mean, I think you might be touching on a point, but are the people who maybe just don't support Everton, who support other teams, but they're just coming to the stadium for the experience? Because I saw something on Facebook the other day that a Southampton fan posted that he came to the match on Monday. Now, I'm not saying that is a primary cause of it, but it's kind of, I guess, what Gav's saying, the change in mindset of why fans are coming to the game. I'm just trying to think, if I was an American and I was an Everton fan and I hadn't been for ages, that would be my be-all and end-all, and I would be coming and I'd sing my heart out. I mean, I tried my best to do that anyway. But
you'd be whooping and hollering.
No, do you know what I mean? I mean, let's look at, this is just my opinion, 3 of the best atmospheric moments from this season. I can't comment on Brighton, although I did watch on the telly. I just wasn't in the stadium, but I'm sure that was one. But the 3 that I've known while I've been in the stadium, at the Palace, where we came back to win 2-1, that was something that happened on the pitch. So the fans responded to that. Then the other 2 for me were pre-game, and I was probably just as the game started. So the Newcastle game at night, and I was it was 5:30, wasn't it? And the Arsenal game at 8 o'clock as well. So we had the display for the Arsenal game, but we ended up going 1-0 down. We are playing the team who were top of the league, so very difficult to try and come back from that. But Newcastle, we conceded in the first 2 or 3 minutes,
wasn't it? I think in the last.
I can't remember if there was a display.
Seconds, wasn't it, Newcastle?
Well, was there a display for the Newcastle game? But all I remember was the atmosphere being really good at the beginning of that. I think expectations were high because we just beat United or Fulham. Can't remember off the top of my head. Newcastle's away form was really poor, so I think expectations, we're going to beat Newcastle here, and then bang, we're down 1-0, and then we end up getting battered 4-1. Obviously, things that have happened on the pitch, but that haven't helped. But then we've had the benefit of the Crystal Palace one as well.
Okay, so a few points to address.
Sorry,
it's a whole podcast on there, isn't it?
When he started then saying about fans from across the water, I thought he was talking about me and New Brighton there when he started with that one. But I'm sure what you get a little bit this season is you've got they're called the groundhoppers on the continent, but the 92 club here, aren't you? Because Everton's a new one to tick off. You get a few people coming for that, but they're very much in the minority, aren't they? I think that, they're all going to enjoy their day out and make the pilgrimage, as it were, to Hill Dickinson Stadium to tick that one off the list. But they're all only a very small minority in the overall term. I don't know about it. I don't think maybe it depends where they come from, because American fans do tend to be actually quite vocal, to be fair to them. But I don't, and Everton got quite a few of those. But it depends, I suppose, where they come from in the world, and everyone's different. You could have two people from the same country, and it might be different. But okay, in terms of the atmosphere, I think it's the same as it's always been. Like, say, you react to moments. I remember at Goodison, that huge sort of firework welcome against Newcastle, and it was incredible. And then Newcastle ended up winning 4-1 that night as well. And I think that's when a lot of people really felt down in the dumps after that one, because it was almost like, well, we've done all of this, we've had this incredible welcome, and the coach welcome, I think, that night as well. And they still got turned over badly on the pitch. And I think a lot of people felt Everton were going down after that, because for all that welcome, it didn't actually get the team over the line that night. It's the same as it's always been for me. You're just reacting to moments on the pitch, and the players they all say the chicken and egg in terms of, do players feed off the fans or do fans feed off the players? I think the supporters have got to have something from the team for them to get behind, because it's all well and good having these displays. And David Moyes, if you notice, he's made a point of this. I think virtually every home game, he mentions the atmosphere. He tries to G people up in his programme notes. To be fair, whatever you think of David Moyes, he's a manager who was certainly able to get the best out of Goodison on numerous occasions, and he's trying to do the same at Hill Dickinson Stadium. But you can have all this pre-match stuff. It's what they do actually it's in the game, because, with that wonderful tifo from the 1878s and all the display before the game. But, once the game's on, that's taken down, and that doesn't win you the points. It's got to be the team inspiring the fans, whether they're from Liverpool, the Wirral, or USA, or wherever in the world they're from. It's got to be those moments that the team are producing for me.
And we're going down. Lots of good comments. I've been looking at the comments. It might be worth reading out. A couple of lots of good comments about it.
I might go down a rabbit hole with this, Gav, but
it's important, though, isn't it?
But is the huge amounts of night games that we've had this season impacting?
Absolutely. Yeah,
sorry, just
that's not helped, has it? No.
Finishing work, trying to rush to the game, not being able to go for a pint before and after. It's not like a normal Saturday 3:00 that you spend your couple of hours doing that and enjoying, even if you do end up drawing or getting beat.
Well, I'd say a lot of a majority is night games, isn't it? Really. And when you look at we got two coming up, haven't we? The next two are night games, and there's a likelihood that some of the other games will be moved between now and the end of the season. Chelsea could have been it. But
then we always used to say Goodison under the lights.
But I do think this goes back to, and I think there's touch on it. It's accessibility, isn't it, and stuff like this. We know that there's a little bit of an elephant in the room. It's HD is not as accessible as Goodison Park, which is actually quite difficult to sort of get in around. When you're in and around the streets to get there, but it's a lot more difficult in terms of 20-25 minute walk. And at night games for people who live further away from me, it can be far more difficult for them to get home, and that doesn't add to the experience, is it? Knowing that, especially knowing like on Tuesday when it was teaming down going, and then teaming it down coming back, that doesn't add to your experience. And when you throw that into, like, as I say, the way what owners want from home crowds these days, are sanitised, sort of, non-aggressive, all that type of thing. Just
spending money, basically.
Spending money, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I personally, as a fan, I don't spend any money. I think I bought a water once since I've been in Hill Dickinson.
And I'm not talking about generally about Everton. I'm just talking about generally in modern football. That affects atmospheres. You do detect as well. There's a general level of dissatisfaction amongst a lot of fan base at the moment about not just like that type of stuff, but VAR, moving the kickoffs and all that. And I'm paying premium prices for this, And I think ultimately that does affect atmospheres. It does affect the performances on the pitch. And I think you're seeing that already this season.
You can't celebrate a goal properly, can you?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, that it's not just common to us, isn't it? Of people of the red persuasion I know will tell you exactly the same about across the park, and I'm not sure. How do we change that? That's the thing, isn't it? If you're selling a game as a day out, okay. The thing is your support there just becomes, and just I'm generally in football, your support there just becomes part of that. It doesn't become everything, does it? And I think you're seeing that manifest itself in Premier League football. It's certainly not as, the atmospheres and whatever is not as attractive as what it was, say, 10 years ago. And I think football as well, the way that's changed, probably hasn't helped. But I do think I think it's an issue going forward, because we still got, there's lots of people, younger people, who were maybe not as, wedded to go in the game. That in the future, but I'm going this part of football's problem, isn't it?
I already know a couple of people who are saying they're going to bin it off next season because it's just an absolute pain for them to get there. Generation, they're older than me. Like say, personally for me, I've acclimatised. Probably
people don't go to games at Anfield, but there's a whole host of things. I'm not pointing the finger at Everton here or the new stadium. There's a whole host of things within football across all clubs that I think are impacting the game at the moment.
Well, if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, Kevin Crafter has just said, he summed it up succinctly, the joy has gone out of football. So he says, so he's going beyond Everton, beyond Hill Dickinson.
And I do think it's the way the game's the main market, the way it's marketed, but what people want from fans and the fan experience, I think that contributes towards that.
And James Graham there, the style of football everyone is playing doesn't help.
I think
the way the Premier League's gone.
Yeah, there's an element of that. Yeah. Pay £75 to see a load of long throws and people going down and on the ground after being fouled for 30 seconds and stuff like this.
We are going off on a tangent here. Didn't you say to us once, and it was about the time I started watching football as well, in the late 80s. Nothing much happened. You just do a big long kick. But we loved it.
There's rose-tinted spectacles. I watched it because when I was doing a book, I watched the rerun of Everton Liverpool '87 when they were probably the two best teams in England and probably the two best in Europe. And most of the games, Bruce Grobbelaar and Neville Southall just battered the ball to each other for 90 minutes.
Good old days.
Long periods of the game, nothing happened. But guess what? The atmosphere was great, and that's what people expected. I think if you're paying, because that was all right if you're paying £2.50 for a ground ticket. If you're paying £75 now for a match day ticket, it's a slightly different. What were your requirements are slightly different, aren't they?
I mean, it's like we've had conversations about the Bayern game, which I know everyone claims they were there. I wasn't there, but I have rewatched it back, and it was watching it back was just an awful game.
Yeah. But the second half very much modern. Get the ball into the area
in moments, though.
Yeah,
in moments.
Oh yeah. But that's what. If you didn't know any difference, then
you weren't born then, were you?
Definitely wasn't born.
I think. We talking about home form and all this type of stuff, and that was it. All this, I think, puts that into the melting pot, doesn't it? When we're talking about home results and things like that, I think it does contribute to it ultimately. And I don't think I'm not just talking about Everton. I think that's the case for several clubs, to be fair.
Okay, I've made a note of 3 comments from what we're just discussing, and then we'll kind of move on. So Ken Sprayer says, it doesn't help that officials are getting decisions either wrong or contradicting decisions that have gone before. He's used an example of the O'Brien goal v Villa was the same as the Bournemouth winner. I mean, we were obviously
slightly different. You've got to be making a play for the ball, haven't you? I mean, whether the Bournemouth lad was doing it, but the optics aren't great. You're looking at it thinking one was allowed, one was disallowed.
But the other one that we'll mention it quickly now was the Fulham Manchester City game where Tete pulls Semenyo's hair, is it? Yeah. And doesn't get anything, but Michael Keane was sent off for serious.
I reckon 2 people might have had them. I reckon the other fellow might have had a little tug as well.
But like, there's contradicting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But they do. I think that the slight difference is Keane was obviously blatant, wasn't it? The Semenyo one wasn't, but for all intents and purposes, everybody I've seen says he's
still pulls.
I think the Semenyo Tete is worse because Keane is making a genuine attempt to win the ball, and anyone who's played, if you played football at any point as a centre back, you've got to protect yourself for that. So he's going up, and David Moyes is adamant. He said it's not a deliberate action, and he said that's what he was so furious about was in the appeal. He said, in Moyes' words, it was virtually impossible for it to be a deliberate action, so he thought. Whereas Tete on Semenyo's an off-the-ball incident. He's just there watching the cross comes in, and as a youngster, that makes it worse. And I had a big opinion piece on this yesterday that we published. So take a look at that, please. But Howard Webb came on television talking tough after Michael Keane. he was on, was it Premier League Refs Mic'd Up or whatever it's called on Sky Sports with Michael Owen, and even Owen was saying as a former Liverpool player, bit harsh, wasn't it, Michael Keane? And he was saying, no, it's very offensive to pull somebody's hair. I mean, he tried to make light of it, says no one's pulled my hair for a long time, but he said it's a very offensive thing to do. It was an appropriate action to show the red card, and he said if the same thing happens next week, it'll be the same action, i.e. another sending off. But it wasn't, was it?
Yeah, no.
So that's what Everton have infuriated.
I think that type of stuff, people who are non-Everton fans see that and go, well, actually, what's going on here? I mean,
it's especially when you've got
on a rant about the Michael Keane.
But when you've got VAR and you've got replays and all that available to you, and you're still getting it wrong.
The joy is, was it Kevin, was it, who said the joy is being...
Yeah, Kevin Kraft.
And I think that ultimately transmits itself to match day atmospheres, which transmits itself to performances on the pitch and all that type of thing. And I think that when we're talking about our home form and atmospheres, I think all that plays in. Some of it's outside of it, quite a bit of that's outside Everton's control in terms of kick-off times and refereeing decisions and stuff. I would like to think there's a conversation between Everton and the officials organisation about why is Keane being sent off there, and he told us that's a red card offence for pulling air, but actually, to all intents and purposes, Tete's done that ironically enough.
But there's been numerous times this season, hasn't there? There was the non-penalty against Arsenal when Barry was brought down, and then the Premier League's own review board said, yes, that should have been a penalty. And then Moyes said he nearly, half choked himself when something, was it the Fulham Forest game? Just like 48 hours later, they gave one. It was more basically as close as you're going to get to a carbon copy of that incident. And then we've had the handballs against Tarkowski and Dewsbury Hall. And then the one in the Burnley game, they actually showed that... wasn't Dewsbury Hall closer to the ball than the Burnley player was against Tyler Diblin? So it's like numerous things. I mean, every football club in the country, up and down the country, in the world, is probably going to think there's a paranoia that referees have got it in for their team. But you've actually got numerous sort of examples here with Everton across the season where more or less like-for-like comparisons have gone the other way when it's not been Everton.
I think most clubs could say that. My line on this has always been is that both the bigger clubs will get away with it because of the consequences of making a bad decision.
Well, just on that, just look at the
Arsenal one. That was the Arsenal one came into that. I think that
Moyes gets booked for running on the pitch, celebrating. A load of Arsenal players ran on the pitch against Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final and got nothing.
Moyes made a point.
Low hanging fruit. The clubs outside the big six to target. And I'm talking about the Rodri handball, the same principle applies in 2022.
Right.
But I do think all that thing goes in the mix here and goes into the stuff we're talking about, doesn't it? About that dissatisfaction and atmospheres and all that type of thing. It just see what's happening at Spurs. Yeah.
Finish off here so some other questions.
You can say that for 20 minutes, this subject. What's good?
Kevin Kraft said, Hill Dickinson Stadium needs an identity. Currently, it looks too corporate and bland. It should be more Everton, and currently it doesn't. And Charlie Waters says, people still going on about Goodison. It's honestly so boring. We had to leave there. And we're never going back, so people need to forget about it.
I know since the spectacle, I was always fantastic at Goodison and blah, blah, blah. Night under the nights and night lights and stuff like this, when actually a lot of the matches were pretty bland and no atmosphere. So, I agree with that.
The decoration one's an interesting one because I don't get it personally, because to be fair, what they have done, haven't they? They've got that sort of... the electronic version of the Bullen's Road, the Archibald Leach, so that's a little touch there. And obviously, I don't know, even if you had Everton across the seats, which, I possibly would have done if I'd have been the club owner. But, I mean, personally, what I'd have had, I know you've obviously got Hill Dickinson Stadium on the roof. I'd have had the word Everton on the roof, so every ship that goes up the Mersey, the first thing they see is the word Everton. But in terms of the decoration in the stadium, I don't understand how that
can change. So that can, but it's fair season, and it's obviously a little bit of a rush to get in there, wasn't it?
Expect the south stands, north stand to be changed, names and
I
stuff
think
like that.
There's time there, and hopefully there was comments there, wasn't there, about giving feedback to the club, and you would hope that it's not going to be the finished article, is it? In the first year, and we have to sort of bear that in mind in terms of commenting about the club, but hopefully the club can react to some of those comments and make it a little bit more Everton-ish.
Right, we haven't got long left, so Chris has got a very important phone call.
Hopefully.
At 12 o'clock. Yeah. I mean, Chris, the one way that we know things can improve, which is in our hands, is for Moyes and the players to start winning and getting stuff right on the pitch. So let's talk about whether is Moyes being stubborn to a fault, or is he being systematic in how he's selecting his team? Obviously, we've had this conversation where he picks his favourites or he's not being ruthless enough. Some will argue, well, he is being ruthless because he's up Nathan Patterson. But again, it'll go back to playing players out of position, square pegs and round holes. Is the balance of the team right? Is he setting up right at home? Because you can't argue that he is away. There's absolutely no doubt he is away, but at home, it's not. Yeah,
but whatever he's doing, he's doing it the same way home and away, but it's just not working at home, is it? And to the levels that he or the Evertonians would want. He's won 11 out of 22 away games. He's incredible. So that's been the big upsurge, hasn't it? In a team who's won just once away from home over the previous 12 months. He's well and truly sorted that. But yeah, I'm sure he's very frustrated, like we all are with this home form. And like I said, it was kind of working earlier in the season. I'm not too sure about. I mean, so that the Dwight McNeil experiment now seems to be over. He's not been included in as much as Moyes says. There's not a problem. Maybe it's just because of increased competition for places. Now he's not been in the squad for the last 2 games since his move to Crystal Palace collapsed. I don't know why he was playing him on possessed with him on the right wing, but I don't know about stubbornness. It's just him and the players need to find a way. He's working with the tools he's got available, and I don't know if it's stubborn because I don't know what people would necessarily want in what they say, what he could do differently.
Well, but, I mean, obviously Harrison Armstrong's not a winger, but he seems to have been played, the last couple of games on the wing. Obviously, Jake O'Brien's the big one.
Yeah,
he's right back. Okay, we've got a naturally sided right back in Nathan Patterson. You can argue till you're blue in the face about his quality. That's fine. But we've also got, I guess, a James Garner, who every time he's played there this season, Everton have looked a far better unit, both defensively and in it from an attacking point of view. I know you can argue, well, Garner's been fantastic in midfield, so you don't want to take him out there. That's fine. Gav, Chris said he thinks that we're playing the same away from home and at home.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Probably playing deeper. I think we're suited to playing deeper, aren't we? I think James Garner is suited to playing deeper. I think he struggles a little bit when at home, and he's got to move out a little bit. Got played around a little bit. I thought.
Yeah, is that where the gap's coming through, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's more comfortable away from home. Like I said before, I've known several players are. I think in terms of selection, I'm amazed, and it's been brought up there, hasn't it? It's quite obviously, like the most cohesive midfield performance of the season was at Aston Villa, wasn't it? Who were a decent team.
I think Bournemouth as well. Away, sorry.
But Villa are a better team than Bournemouth, aren't they? But the Armstrong rail, is it? Yeah, Roll. And Roll, yeah, and Garner. Still look at that. Is it?
Because like the umlaut, you mean?
Yeah. And only Garner. So out of them 3 who started the Villa game, it's not so long ago. It was about a month ago, wasn't it? Yeah, James Garner. He was the only one of those 3 who started on. I know.
Well, he brought just a gay back, didn't he?
Yeah, and I find the lack of minutes for Roll since the Villa game baffling, and I still find the exclusion of Patterson baffling at right back, because he gives us more than just being a regular right back. As I said before, he gives us better balance in across the defence, and I find those 2 selections baffling, and the lack of minutes for some players. I mean, Alcaraz has hardly had anything, has he? Where there's been times where he should have been on the pitch. So yeah, there's some comments there about Moyes, chopping and changing, possibly.
I think focusing on the midfield and specifically Gay, me and Tony had this conversation the other day. I brought this up months ago, and I think James Garner and Idrissa Gay struggle to play in the same midfield, certainly at home, because I just don't know I don't know what Gay's job is to do when he's alongside Garner. So if you look at Garner Gay's absence from the team, obviously he was red carded against United, and then we ended up going on and winning. We got absolutely hammered by Newcastle 4-1 the very next game, which he wasn't in there. We know Tim Adebayo had a poor game, if you remember rightly, on that one. So results have been mixed, but then Bournemouth away, we had a 1-0 win, fantastic performance. Forest, we won at home 3-0, and then he comes straight back in the team after the suspension for Chelsea. We get beat 2-0. Okay, Chelsea are a tough game. Then we've got Arsenal, we got beat. So I think Arsenal was the first game that he missed through AFCON. Burnley we drew. Forest away we won. Gay wasn't there. He wasn't there for Brentford, and I don't think he wasn't obviously there for Wolves as well. And then looking at the other league game, Villa, he didn't play, so Roll had the really good game, like solid game, but then he's straight back in for the Leeds game, which we were poor.
I was surprised at coming straight back in.
That's right, yeah.
After the AFCON. Not because like performance-wise, I just think he probably just needed to settle back in. He's been away for like 6 weeks or whatever it was. I was surprised at that. At his age, he's just,
after a long tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's emotional and all this type of thing, isn't it? Really, it takes a lot out of you mentally. And this shows the dangers of a Ghana guy at that age. Sometimes you form, especially the type of role he's played over the years. You can be doing okay, and all of a sudden you just form, and your fitness drops off the edge of a cliff, and you're not getting it back. What's
his role in the team within the midfield three? If a Ghana sits deeper and Dewsbury's the number 10 as he to force, what is Ghana's?
I think
what is Gage's role?
Still a putting out of fires, ball winner type thing
against a team who are going to sit in and not have.
They don't need. I've said this all along. I don't think you need them. You can't. You don't. But you can. You can keep him in the team. But you've got to pay James Garner's role. Has to be slightly different then, doesn't it? He needs to be pushing up and making his presence felt in the opposition box a lot more. But he's sort of nailed down that position, hasn't he, in front of the back four, James Garner. And as you say, I'm not sure whether you need Garner guy against a team that's going to sit in deep.
So it goes back to, I don't think we're going to have time, to talk about
got a 3 week next week
transfer strategy. Yeah. But we will come on to it because I know it's something we want to talk about, and I know Tony Scott's got a big opinion on it.
Scott's got a big opinion about Everton, in case you haven't noticed.
Well, you've got spending your night with him on Saturday. Is Moyes being stubborn then? Is he picking? Obviously, he's picking players that he think will do a job, that will get results for Everton. I don't think he's not doing that. But is he not seeing the bigger picture of Harrison Armstrong on the wing? Like, play your players in the correct positions. Play your players where they're going to have the most impact within that 11. And Harrison Armstrong actually has done okay on the wing. I'm not saying he hasn't, but it's not where he's going to have his best impact, is it? You've got when you've got a full strength team.
I think what the criticism Moyes is, and I think there's an element of truth in it, is that sometimes he's too loyal to his trusted players. On occasions, he should be changing things more. And he, as we know, he doesn't necessarily put a great deal of trust in younger players in particular. And mind you, nobody else in the Premier League does these days. As I always need to remember this, see that the stat the week before last, there was only 6 stars in the Premier League who were under 20. In the entire Premier League the week before last.
Okay.
So not only is Moyes not picking younger players, nobody's picking younger players.
Okay. Although he is picking Harrison Armstrong,
but
he deserves to be in the team, though. I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the general comment there is yes, he does sometimes place a little bit too much trust in players that he's familiar with, and I think that can let him down on occasions. Probably let him down. I think Garner over the last couple of games.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'll say that. I was surprised actually that Idrissa Gueye started against Bournemouth, given it was just 4 days after the Fulham game, probably more so maybe than even the Leeds one. But I have noticed that James Garner, who's absolutely tearing it up, like you say, while Idrissa Gueye wasn't there, he does seem to be sort of struggling, like you say, in his role once Idrissa Gueye is back there. And if you mentioned those games before when he was doing well, when Garner was, Idrissa Gueye was out the side. It was when Dewsbury Hall was deeper as well, playing in like more of a creative number 8 role rather than the 10 in those games. So it's a few things to ponder there.
Well, I mean, this one's going to be too continued because we did want to speak about transfer strategy and maybe lack of signings, to quote Tony Scott, in January. So we'll...
it carries on this issue, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. Everton's next game now.
Hair-pulling special podcast we should have,
Yeah, Everton's next game is now not until the 23rd of February. So
Monday night.
A good while away, Chris. United.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. Like we just said quickly that James Garner. I mean, does he put James Garner right back, like you say, with Jake O'Brien injured? Does he go? Suspended. Does he go for the natural right back in Patson? Or given those for the midfield options that we discussed there, he's trying to fit them all in. Is this time for Garner to go back to right back?
I guess we can assess near at the time. I know probably what I would do. But we'll see if there's any more injuries.
Just to say thanks for everybody's comments. There was a hell of a lot of comments there, which is normally good. Normally there's quite an interesting topic we're talking about.
A lot of engagement.
Yeah, thanks for commenting. And
let me very quickly read some out because I did have some. So Kieran Callie says, this Moyes hate needs to stop. He's made plenty of mistakes, but we've been nowhere near Europe without him. He's had use of some championship players most this season, Keane, Mikalenko, Patterson, McNeil. I think that's the thing. Like, we can all be critical of Moyes, and I think some of it is warranted, but obviously a lot of it is down to the Freakins, the new stadium, the move on that we've had from the old Farhad Moshiri era. But Moyes coming in has definitely steadied the ship and hopefully built some foundations to help move forward.
Yeah, but then that's what we need to talk about. What is the next stage beyond that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. You can critique his individual decisions on a week-to-week basis without going 0 to 16, going Moyes out. I mean, that's the problem that we've seen, like too many football clubs, and we mentioned Forest and four managers.
That's a product of this dissatisfaction about people generally with the game.
Yeah.
And Premier League football, isn't it? It's just those reactions are probably far more common now than what they were before because people are not happy.
Just very quickly to flag, and we haven't mentioned this, but JFP Mo has said Moyes messing with Ndiaye's position is just confusion. I think since he's come back, he obviously hasn't been as impactful as what he has been previously. Don't get me wrong, he might have a bit of an AFCON hangover, fatigue or etc. But he, swapping and changing from the left to the right, I don't think has helped. And I did say, well, just keep him on the right-hand side. And that's where he's been most impactful this season.
I'd rather see him play left, but the one option you don't want there is right, left every week.
But he did that with Patterson and Ndiaye against Fulham.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, we will leave it there. Thank you for everyone who has watched the live stream, and thank you for everyone who has listened on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Just so everyone knows that Monday, Joe Thomas did an interview with a special guest a couple of weeks back, and that interview, pre-recorded interview. He's an Everton fan, the guest, so that interview is going to go out Monday, but we will be back, a little bit later in the week, building up to the Manchester United game with all our content. So, Chris, any final words before we go?
No, it just sounds like there's a lot to discuss, to be fair, next week to keep us going. So hopefully, there's plenty on the table.
Gav?
Oh, sorry, and actually, an interesting story about Hill Dickinson Stadium coming out for myself this afternoon. So let's look out for that one.
Yeah.
Any interesting stories coming out?
An interesting story about Hill Dickinson to publish, No, I thought that was a really good podcast, and I think we touched the nerve there talking about the match day experience of Premier League football generally, and you could tell by the comments really. And I was there for 13,000 at home to Coventry.
One of those
I was there for 9,000 against Coventry in the
there you go.
Cup,
Over-egged it.
Yeah, but it just shows that it wasn't always rose-tinted spectacles at Goodison.
Okay, that is all for today's Royal Blue podcast. Thanks to Gav and Chris. I've been your host, Ian Croll, and this has been the Royal Blue podcast.